You Owe Me One Universe by Chad Lucas, Chapter 16, The Secret Lingo of Music Geeks, Ezra. Victor was in my room. I didn't know why it felt so weird. I mean, things with Victor had always been complicated, but we were just working on music. It was like being partners on a school project. He looked around at my posters. Cool room. I've only heard of half these bands. You listen to a lot of music, don't you? I shrugged. All the time, yeah. He gave me one of those looks where I had no idea what he was thinking, and I wondered if this was going to be one big awkward mistake. Where should I set up? He asked. How about over there? I cleared a space on my desk. Then I tuned my guitar while he ran a cable and a microphone to my amp. When he was done, he sat in my desk chair and spun around to face me. I tried a couple things, I said. I can play them and see what you'd like. Cool. He pressed play on his computer. Suddenly, this was more nerve-wracking than when I was messing around on my own. It was still Victor's song. What if he hated my ideas? I started with a simple riff that gathered steam as the song went along. Then I turned on my delay pedal, and the notes I was playing cascaded into each other like a wave washing up on the beach. I risked a glance at Victor. His face was as still as ever. When I finished, he was silent. I like that a lot, he finally said, but I think it might be too much for the song. Oh, yeah, sure, of course. I fiddled with my pedal as an excuse not to look at him. It's cool, though. We should still record it. You could build a song around it. Let's do that first. When I looked up, he was opening a new file. I'll give you a click track to help you stay on beat, he said. I huffed like I was offended. Are you suggesting I don't have perfect rhythm? Okay, Rockstar, Victor smiled. Then he was back to business. Ready? I nodded, and Victor hit record. I was more nervous now that it was just me and a steady click and Victor watching while he absently kept time with his foot. I started out fine, but I screwed up when I turned on the delay effect. I clicked my pedal a half beat too late, and suddenly I was out of sync with the click track. The notes piled up into a mess. I stopped. Shoot, I said, embarrassed. Victor shrugged. The first half's great. We can keep it and start from the delay part. I must have still looked bummed because he added, I had to do my drum part like 8 times. We tried another take, but it still didn't feel right. I asked Victor if we could go again. That sounded perfect, he said after my 3rd take. Want to hear it? He hit play and I moved closer to hear better. I'd recorded a few covers on my phone, though I never showed them to anyone. I didn't feel ready to put stuff online like Kevin kept suggesting, but this was different. The music coming out of Victor's computer was mine. This is great, he said. You could definitely make something out of it. His voice was so close it surprised me. I drifted so I was leaning over his shoulder. I straightened up. Cool, thanks for recording it. If you want to come to my place tomorrow, we could add some other parts. He tapped his laptop. I've got all the software on here, but I like working with my actual keyboard. I'm more creative that way. I rolled my eyes. Okay, Rockstar. That would be cool, though, I said. I have basketball practice after school, but I could come to your place later. Do you want to work on your song now? He saved my guitar part and opened his song again. I played another part I made up where I used my volume pedal to make the notes swell and contract. Victor broke into the biggest grin I'd seen from him yet. Okay, I love that, he pointed at my pedal. Can you make those crescendos even bigger and then cut them off at the end like... Victor tried to demonstrate what he wanted with exaggerated air guitar motions. I couldn't help snickering. Do I have to make those faces while I'm doing it? He laughed. Shut up, you get the idea, right? I tried what he was suggesting and his grin got bigger. Yeah, that's awesome, let's record it. As we recorded, his head bobbed along with the beat. When we listened back, Victor suggested I play one section differently. I tried it and he was right, it sounded better. As we played with more ideas, we slipped into music geek lingo. Most of my friends would have glazed over at words like crescendo and staccato and minor 7th, but with Victor it was natural. Sometimes we understood each other before we even finished our sentences. Try that an octave higher and maybe, oh yeah, if I did, exactly, perfect. Victor played the latest take. I think that's the one, he said. Then his phone dinged and he checked the message. That's definitely the one, because my mom's here. He packed his gear and I walked him to the door. Thanks for letting me play on your song, I said. This was really fun. Thanks for doing it, he replied. You're talented. We'll do your song tomorrow? Cool. It felt weird to think of my little riff as a song, but maybe it could become one. After Victor left, I wandered into the kitchen for a snack. Mom was there, smiling. What? I asked. She played innocent. What do you mean? You're smiling. I'm not allowed to smile? It's a suspicious kind of smile. Mom laughed. I'm smiling because you're smiling. You look so happy. Is that because you spent all night playing music or because of who you were playing music with? My head nearly burst into flames. It was the music. We were recording. Victor's just Victor. Whoever he is, it's nice to see you so cheery. Mom squeezed my shoulder. Her smile was burned in my mind as I poured a bowl of cereal. Mom and Dad had been cool when I told them last summer that I was gay, but we didn't really talk about it. Mom hinting that maybe I liked Victor was awkward, but not the worst, I guess. I was glad she was okay with the idea of me having a crush on a guy. Victor wasn't that guy, though. Sure, he was talented and good-looking, and tonight was, well, kind of amazing, and I'd had that dream where, well, I didn't want to think about that, but there were at least a dozen reasons why me and Victor should never happen. What was he exactly? I couldn't even bring myself to call him a friend when Mom asked, but I was already looking forward to tomorrow. I checked my phone as I ate. Brian had texted me more than an hour ago. Hey. Shoot, I'd promised I'd talk to him tonight. I'd forgotten. Hey, sorry I got distracted with music, I replied. Still up if you want to talk. He didn't write back till I was brushing my teeth. Nah, it's okay. Talk to you later. Want me to come over at lunch tomorrow? I wrote back. Sure. The frosted flakes sat heavy in my stomach when I went to bed. My best friend was struggling, and I ditched him for the guy who made his life miserable last year. Victor seemed different, but it still felt like I was betraying Brian. I should be hanging out with Brian after practice instead of squeezing him in at lunch and going to Victor's later. Except I wanted to make music with Victor more than I wanted to hang out with Brian. It took me a long time to fall asleep. Chapter 17. Trying. Brian. Maybe Dr. Bender was right about the seasonal part of why I felt so lousy. Even after my first decent sleep in weeks, waking in the dead, cold dark was like starting the day underground. Still, I rolled onto the floor to do push-ups and stomach crunches. I remembered how good it felt to be in the gym last night. I knew exercise helped. This was me, trying. Afterward, I lay flat and caught my breath. I felt not terrible, but my chest went tingly as soon as I started thinking about school. Ezra had said he'd come over at lunch. I'd start with social contact. Baby steps. The sounds of an escalating argument drew me to the kitchen, where I found Mom leaning over the table while Richie ate breakfast in his pajamas. What's going on? I asked. Richie chomped a spoonful of cereal. I'm on strike, he answered with his mouth full. On strike from what? Mom sighed. He says he's not going to school. Richie slurped his milk. If Brian's skipping, I am too. Mom looked from me to Richie. Her conflict was obvious. She wanted to lecture Richie that I wasn't skipping, but she didn't want to make excuses for me either. She wanted me out of the house. They both did. I had to hand it to Richie. This was a smart play. Makes sense to me, I said. Rich deserves a day off. Mom sighed. Brian. Good, I'm staying home. Richie folded his arms. Mom turned toward the sink. As she gathered herself, the silence was louder than a swarm of wasps. She probably wanted to tell Richie to knock it off and just go to school, but we all knew there was no moving him when he dug in, and it seemed like he was ready for war. The other thing we all knew, I could fix this in a second. All I needed to do was leave the house, get over myself, stop stressing out Mom and Richie, stop bringing everybody down. I wished I could. Mom reached for the notepad by the fridge where she wrote grocery lists. What are you doing? Richie asked. Mom didn't speak until she finished and dropped the list on the table. Since you're both staying home, here are your chores. Brian, you're in charge. If they're not finished when I get home, you lose your phone. Before I could protest, she was already moving to the living room. Richie shot me a look. Like, did we just break Mom? He followed her. She was sticking his Switch in her purse. What are you doing? Richie gasped. This is coming with me. No video games. If you finish your list, you can work on your book talk that's due on Friday. Brian can help you. But enjoy your day off. I still have to work. Mom marched down the hall and disappeared into the bathroom. Richie stood there with his mouth open. Still want to stay home with me? I asked. His face scrunched up, and for a second I worried he was going to cry. Remember when you weren't a jerk and actually cared about me? He snapped. Then he stomped to his room and slammed the door. I thought about following him to apologize for, I don't know, being me, I guess. But I didn't. I poured a glass of water and swallowed my morning pill. I rattled the bottle before putting it back on the shelf. I wondered when or if this ritual would make a difference. Felt like a whole lot of nothing so far. A moment later, Richie emerged from his room, fully dressed. He headed to the front door and pulled on his coat. I'm going to school, he yelled. Then I'm going to Leo's. I'll be home after dinner, maybe. He was out the door before Mom reached the kitchen. She stared at me. What? I asked. You won. Congratulations. Mom's eye roll told me she was also remembering a time I wasn't a jerk. I have a bus to catch. I still expect those chores done. Goodbye, Brian. A minute later, she was out too, and I was alone again. My family's sick of me. A wave of anger welled up inside me. Where do they get off being annoyed with me? I carried this family for months, and that's probably what messed me up in the first place. It was a monstrous thought, but I couldn't make it go away. So I tried to drown it out by blasting Vince Staples in my earbuds while I vacuumed the house. I'd never admit it to Mom, especially not right now, but cleaning felt better than moping in my room. The acoustics in the bathroom were excellent as I rapped along while scrubbing the sink. When I finished and passed through the kitchen, I saw Richie's lunch bag. He had forgotten it in his rush to leave. I didn't think he really believed I didn't care about him. He just knew it would make me feel guilty. It had worked. He was such a turd. With a sigh, I packed his lunch and some other things in my backpack and risked going outside. It wasn't a terrible day for January, cold but sunny with no wind. My breath tightened when I reached the elementary school, and I felt silly for being anxious. I rang the bell, and the secretary let me into the office. She'd worked at the school when I went there too, and she greeted me with a smile. Brian Day? Nice to see you. My goodness, you've gotten tall. Hi, Miss Cardillo. I'm dropping off Richie's lunch. He forgot it this morning. Ah, she tisked in sympathy. She knew what I was dealing with when it came to that kid. And how's junior high treating you? You're off this morning? Yeah, it's been a morning. That was the kind of thing people said when they didn't want to explain. Mrs. Cardillo said, like she understood. I'll make sure Richie gets his lunch, and I'll tell him to thank his big brother. He's lucky to have you. I managed a smile and headed back outside. I breathed the crisp air and pulled my backpack straps tight. My own lunch was in there, along with my basketball gear. I'd made it this far. Might as well keep trying, right? What was the worst that could happen? Worst case scenarios. Return to school edition. 4. I'll have another panic attack in the hall. 5. This one will be worse, and I'll accidentally poop my pants and become an outcast forever. 6. I'll have an actual heart attack, and the school will hang a memorial plaque in the spot where I dropped dead. 7. A hungry bear will wander into the schoolyard and eat me before I reach the door. On the walk to Halifax North, I texted Ezra and Mrs. Cleland. When the lunch bell sounded, I slipped in the back door and headed for Mrs. Cleland's room. Hanging back as the stragglers from a 7th grade class wandered out. When the coast was clear, I stepped inside. Mrs. Cleland crossed the room toward me. I just saw your text. I'm glad you're here. How are you feeling? I swallowed. All right, I think. Can I get you anything? I shook my head. I just want a quiet place for lunch, if that's okay. She nodded, and I took my usual seat near the window. A minute later, Ezra, Ty, and Kevin slipped in the door. They approached cautiously. Ty waved. Hey, Bee. I'm not contagious, I said. You can sit with me. Ty rushed over and bear hugged me from behind before I could get out of my chair. Maybe not that close, I squeezed out. He laughed and let me go. They all sat. For a moment, we were quiet. Just act like it's a normal lunch, I said. I probably won't talk much, but... Like a normal lunch, Kevin joked. And just like that, it wasn't weird. Well, it mostly wasn't weird. Kevin and Ty told stories and goofed around. But Ezra was quiet. He kept looking at me and then looking away, like he was checking on me, but trying not to be obvious about it. I managed to smile to let him know I wasn't a complete mess. Not right now, anyway. English was my only class today after lunch, so I didn't have to move. When the bell rang, Kevin headed to his next class, and the other kids filed into the room. My chest tightened as I sensed my classmates looking at me, but Ezra and Ty formed a shield around me, and nobody asked any questions. It felt like the longest English period ever, but I survived. Finally, the bell rang. Mrs. Cleland gave me a tiny smile, nothing too obvious, just enough to let me know she was proud of me, and probably happy I didn't pass out. You coming to practice? Ty asked. I nodded, and he grinned. He and Ezra flanked me in the hall, my personal bodyguards escorting me to the gym. Coach Williams greeted me with a big smile. I changed quickly and was warming up with Ezra and Ty by the time most of my teammates arrived. "Spicy bee!" Andre exclaimed, and everyone gave me fist bumps. Harrison nodded like, "Great, you're back," but he didn't say anything. Practice went okay. Everyone was nice to me, almost too nice. They said, "Good job, Bee," when I did the simplest things right. It was like no one wanted to upset me in case I fell apart. I hated seeming this fragile. Still, I was glad to be there. Being in the gym made me feel more focused, less swamped by everything, and I wasn't at my best, but I didn't suck either. When we scrimmaged at the end of practice, I hit a three-pointer over Ezra, and later I stole the ball from Jaden and threw a no-look pass to Andre for the game-winning layup. As I changed afterward, exhaustion hit me. I pulled on my hoodie and zoned out for a minute. Ty said goodbye, and Ezra was the only one left with me. I snapped out of my daze and reached for my boots. Ezra tugged on his backpack. "So, how was that? Do you feel okay?" I knew he was asking because he cared, but I wished all our conversations weren't about my mental state. "I'm tired, but fine. What's new with you?" Ezra adjusted his glasses. I've been working on some music lately." "Yeah, for the talent show?" "Maybe. I don't know. I'm still not sure what to play." He tucked his hands in his pockets. "Want me to walk you home?" "Nah, I'm okay. See you tomorrow." It came out automatically, and Ezra's eyes widened with hope. "Are you coming all day?" I swallowed. "I'll try, I guess." "Cool. See you then." "Yeah, thanks." I gave him a hug. He seemed surprised before he hugged me back. A memory popped into my mind from the summer, a lazy August day at Ty's where we'd goofed around in his pool and then sat on his deck playing cards and laughing long after dark. At the end of the night, I'd given Ezra a big hug because I was so grateful to have actual friends who made hanging out so easy. I wondered if it would ever feel that easy again. We split up and I headed back into the cold. I tried to focus on the positive, like how I made it through the afternoon without any disasters, but I kept coming back to how everyone was tiptoeing around me. Even Ezra was fidgety, like he was afraid to say the wrong thing. I dug out my phone to distract me before I went to dark places, but my heart sped up when I saw 4 texts and 2 missed calls from Mom. I scrolled through the texts, and my fear turned into annoyance. "Hi, just checking in. How's your day so far?" "Brian? Can you send me a quick reply? Just want to make sure everything's good." I closed the app. Nothing was wrong. Mom was just paranoid about me, too. I was about to tuck my phone away when she called again. I was tempted to ignore it, but I answered. "Yeah?" She sighed in relief, then tried to sound upbeat. "Just seeing how your day's going." "It's fine. You didn't have to call every 10 minutes. Another sigh, but this one was different. "Well, you didn't answer." "I couldn't check my phone in class or during practice." Long pause. "You went to school?" "For the afternoon, yeah." More silence. Was she trying not to cry? "Anyway, I'm walking and it's cold, so I'll talk to you later." "Brian, bye, Mom." I hung up. Even though I was drained, I walked home in record time, fueled by my irritation. Richie wasn't home, probably at Leo's. I was glad. I was ready to be alone. Chapter 18. Upside Down Victor. Ezra. Mom kept smiling at dinner. "You look nice," she said. "Big plans this evening?" Dad asked. I swallowed. "Just going to Victor's." Sure, I'd showered after practice and I'd put gel in my hair to give my curls a boost, but I always looked fresh when I went out. I didn't do anything extra. "Victor, is that the boy who was here last night?" Dad asked. "He's a musician," Mom said with more emphasis than she needed. "We were recording," I said. "That's what we're doing tonight, too. Victor's a great piano player. You should hear him play Moonlight Sonata." Dad's eyes lit up. He was usually so laid back. He was like a walking nap, but he loved classical music. I'd never seen him more excited than when I helped him set up a Bluetooth speaker at his orthodontist practice so he could stream concertos all day. I figured if I could shift the conversation to music, maybe Mom would lay off with whatever she was doing. I raced through the rest of dinner to avoid any more Victor-related questions. I still felt weird about going to his place. I couldn't even be honest with Brian when he asked what I'd been up to lately. I hadn't lied, but I'd practically ran away so I didn't have to say, "Actually, I'm hanging out with your former bully." I couldn't shake my nagging guilt, so I texted Kevin. Me. "Can I ask you a weird question?" Kevin. "Strange weird or gross weird?" Me. "Not gross. Is Victor still mean to you like last year?" Kevin. Not really. Why? Me. Just curious. He seems different now. Kevin. Yeah, way different. So much quieter. Not shy like Brian, but it's hard to explain. It's weird. Me. Good weird or bad weird? Kevin. I don't know. Good that he stopped being a jerk, obviously. But it's spooky. Like he came out of the woods a different person. Me. The word? The woods? Kevin. There's a rumor that he went missing this summer. Apparently he nearly died, like he almost drowned or something. That's why he didn't come to school till later. No one knows the real story except Colby, but he won't tell. I tried. Victor had almost died? I wondered if any of that was true. All I could write back was, wow. Kevin, no kidding. Maybe he was trapped in the Upside Down. He's part shadow monster now. Kevin threw in a laughing emoji, but it wasn't something I felt like joking about, so I changed the subject. Me, do you talk to Colby much anymore? Kevin, sometimes. It's not like it used to be, though. Do you miss hanging out with him? A wave of memories hit me. Sleepovers, snack runs, silly pranks, laughing so hard we couldn't catch our breath. I swallowed hard. Sometimes. Me too, Kev responded. I just said bye to Kevin when my phone rang. Hey, Maddie, what's up? I answered. Hi, Ezra. She took a breath. I've been thinking about what to play at the talent show. Yeah, same. I'm having a hard time choosing. I was too, but I've decided I'd really like to sing Blackbird, and you played it so well at our recital last June. I'm wondering if you'd accompany me. Maddie's request caught me by surprise. Before I could answer, she added, You should do your own thing too, but I'd love to have you play with me. Yeah, I'd be happy to, I said. Great, thank you. I could hear the smile in her words. This is going to be such a great show. I can't wait. Yeah, I agreed. Hey, random question. You know how you said Victor disappeared over the summer? Do you think something bad happened? Maddie huffed. I've heard rumors, but he probably made half of them up himself. Who knows what's real with him? Why? My face heated up. I don't know. I've been talking to him lately about music and the talent show and stuff, and I can't really figure him out. That sentence was at least 2/3 true. Well, you shouldn't waste your time, Maddie said. You can't trust him. Thanks for the tip. I said goodbye without mentioning I was heading to his house in 5 minutes. Mom dropped me off at Victor's apartment building near the Common, which was a long way from my neighborhood. My mouth went dry as he buzzed me in, and I took the elevator to the 7th floor. I knocked on 712. Victor came to the door in a tank top and shorts, even though it was freezing outside. I should have warned you, he said. It's always hot in here. I slipped off my shoes and hung up my coat. Have you lived here long? Only since August. I followed him to the living room, and he introduced me to his mom, who was reading on the couch. Then he led me to his room. His beige walls were bare, and there was hardly anything on his dresser or desk, other than a laptop and some cables stretching to a keyboard and a set of speakers. It felt like he hadn't been there long, or maybe he kept things simple to match his inscrutable personality. I sat on his bed. Do you get a ride to school? That would be a long walk. He fiddled with his laptop. Mom usually drives me. Technically, I should go to Central, but I tried it and didn't like it, so I transferred back to North. I used Dad's address. He still lives in our old house. I hesitated. See your parents? They split up over the summer. Oh, sorry. Don't be. It's better this way. Now I was curious about his family. Back when we still talked, Colby told me Victor had 2 older brothers. They hung out with Colby's brother Jackson, and Colby said they were even meaner than Jackson, which meant they were awful. This was a 2-bedroom apartment, so I guessed his brothers lived with his dad. I wondered if it was hard to have his family separated like that. I knew how much I missed Nat sometimes. You went to Central, I asked. Is that where you were until November? He half grinned. Which story did you hear? My favorite is the one where I got abducted by aliens. I knew he was joking, but there was something almost wistful in the way he said it. He turned in his chair. Anyway, I started messing around with your guitar riff after school. You can tell me if you like it or not. He hit play, and his room filled with music. Victor had added in some piano, a simple bass line, and a drum beat. I sat with my chin on my hands, listening. When it was done, I was quiet, thinking of what to say. His eyebrows raised. You don't love it. No, it's not that. You can be honest, Ezra. You're bad at hiding what you're thinking. You should give me lessons then, I shot back. You're great at it. His half smile returned. So, I exhaled. I like the piano part, but what if you use something softer, like a synth? And the drums could be more. I'm not sure how to describe it. Show me. Victor clicked his mouse and then waved me to the keyboard. He played a few keys. There's your bass, drum, snare, hi-hat, whatever you want. I sat at the keyboard and played around. I felt self-conscious with Victor watching, and it took a few minutes to figure out the beat I wanted. It was looser than what Victor had recorded, more hip-hop. I see what you're going for, he said. I frowned. It's still not quite right, though. Do you have other drum kits on there? Sure. He scrolled through kits until he landed on one where the bass and snare hit with a satisfying boom-bap. I sat up. That's it. Let's try this one. Victor recorded me playing the new beat. When I finished and we played it back, he nodded. That's right. Oh, wait, no. That's tight. But yeah, the piano doesn't fit. And we need a better bass line. Let me try something. Like last night at my house, the initial awkwardness evaporated as we started bouncing ideas back and forth. I took off my sweater because he wasn't lying. His room was boiling. We slid between the keyboard and the laptop, and Victor showed me how to adjust settings and patches in his software program. Once we were satisfied with the recorded parts, we hunched over the laptop, sitting shoulder to shoulder as we mixed the volume and added some effects. Victor kept glancing at me. What? I asked. He grinned. Your hair smells like coconut. It's making me hungry. My face heated up. I used gel after I showered. I had practice after school. I didn't want him thinking I showered just for him. He leaned one elbow on the desk. Coconut gel. So that's the secret to your cool hair. I adjusted my glasses. That and genetics. You can't eat my hair, though. Victor said, heh. I like how you let your hair grow longer, by the way, I said. It looks good on you. Thanks. Victor was still leaning against his desk with an almost smile. My mind raced. He complimented my hair. I complimented his hair. Why is he looking at me like that? What's happening right now? And why is it so blazing hot in here? Victor's phone buzzed on his desk. He left it until it buzzed 2 more times. He rolled his eyes and picked it up. Colby, math homework meltdown. He can wait. Colby. Now I was imagining the dozens of texts and jokes they'd shared since the last time Colby said more than a hey to me. I stood up. You can write him back. I have to go to the bathroom. I slipped out and found the bathroom. My mind was spinning with all the reasons it felt wrong to hang out with Victor, but I was also thinking about how he'd looked at me and how I liked it and how natural it felt when we were making music, and I think I have a crush on him. When I left the bathroom, his mom was in the kitchen, pouring a glass of wine. Can I get you a drink? She asked, then glanced at her glass. Not this, obviously. Water would be great, thanks, I said. She filled 2 glasses. You sound good in there. I'm glad Victor has someone to make music with. It's his favorite thing in the world right now. She glanced toward his room, and I saw the same worried mom look I saw from Brian's mom sometimes. He's really talented, I said. Yes, he is. Anyway, I won't keep you. Enjoy your recording. When I returned to Victor's room, he was setting down his phone. Problem solved. Colby will survive. He studied my face as I handed him a glass. Are you okay? I'm fine. He raised an eyebrow. Remember how you're bad at hiding what you're thinking? My heart went fluttery. I had to say something. This isn't weird for you? His forehead wrinkled. Weird? I like making music with you, I said, but I'm best friends with Brian, and you bullied him all last year, and I used to be friends with Colby, who changed after he started hanging out with you, and now he barely talks to me. I can't just pretend none of that ever happened. Victor's face went blank. So you don't want to do this anymore? No, I just think we should talk about stuff. So you want an excuse why it's okay to hang out with a jerk like me. That's not what I said. His sarcasm stung. Suddenly this felt too hard. I reached for my sweater and stood up. Never mind, I should go. Ezra, wait, I didn't mean that. Victor sighed and pushed back his hair. Saying mean stuff is this habit that, it's like, his face flushed and he looked toward the window. I'm seeing a therapist now. I haven't told many people. Everyone talks about me enough already. I sat back down. I won't tell anyone, but you shouldn't be embarrassed about going to therapy. That's good. He tugged at the hem of his tank top. Colby and I started hanging out in class last year. I wasn't trying to steal him. I folded my arms. I know. He ghosted me after I told him I'm gay. That's on him. Victor nodded. I get why you're mad at him, but he stuck with me when everyone else failed, and he knows he messed up with you. If he's actually sorry, he knows how to find me. My neck felt prickly, and I didn't want to talk about Colby anymore. What about Brian? Why were you so mean to him? Victor winced. I'm not proud of last year, all right? He lowered his eyes and traced little circles on his desk. I believe you, but you didn't answer my question, and you never apologized. My voice went shaky. I feel like I'm lying to Brian. He doesn't know we're hanging out. If we're going to be friends or music partners or whatever we're doing, it would help if you'd at least say sorry to him. My face was on fire. I rubbed my eyes under my glasses. I hated that I was getting emotional. Victor was right. I was terrible at hiding my feelings, and he was the opposite. His ears were red, but he stared at his computer, not looking at me, not saying anything. It was kind of irritating. How could one person make me feel so many different things at once? My phone dinged, and I checked the message. My mom's on her way. I have to go. Are you together? Victor asked. What? You and Brian. You seem really close. Just wondering if you're, together. Like a couple? No, but he's my best friend. I care about him a lot. I know. There was something almost sad in the way Victor said it. He walked me to his apartment door, and we said an awkward goodbye. He didn't ask if we were going to do this again. I didn't know if I wanted him to ask. I didn't know what to think as I walked toward the elevators. Behind me, his door clicked shut.